Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ALECA Talks, where we talk with leaders of a sustainable future. I'm your host, Serge, aka the boring ESG guy, if you want to follow me on social media. Today, I'm honored to be joined with someone who has lived kind of the full arc of modern accounting profession. Ermal Krutani has spent 24 years in accounting and has now risen to partner at Xeinadin, one of the UK's top firms with over 4,000 employees and over 300 partners, I believe. So beyond his work there and beyond his client work, Ermal also serves on the council of the Institute of Financial Accountants, IFA, and acts as the London regional ambassador, helping accountants earn CPDs and stay ahead of the curve, really. So he's passionate about technology, AI, sustainability, and the real pressures of his clients' SMEs, what they face today. Ermal, welcome to ALECA Talks.
Thank you, Serge. The pleasure and honor is all mine, and thank you for having me on your show. And
You're more than welcome. I know we've met a few times now and we finally got your schedule down. You're a busy man. It's good to
yeah,
know that you can make a little bit of time for us. Let's start
it's
at
a
the
pleasure.
beginning. You start at
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
beginning. You spent 24 years in the profession. What originally drew you into accounting and what did the profession look like kind of when you first joined?
Well, I'm going to say the cliche thing to say that I'm good with numbers, and obviously I do like numbers, especially when they appear in my bank balance as well. After I had a good career, it does help. And I've done, saying that I have done well out of the profession, for these last 24 years. But it started, yeah, I do have a family history of accountants, and dad was an accountant. He worked for a council back in my country in Albania. That's where I was born. Obviously I studied accountancy at university in Albania. Then I moved into the UK in early 2000s, where I continued my studies, accountancy studies, AAT, and then ACCA. And then I started working for what it was Devonport's at that time, in February 2003, 2002, sorry. It's about 24 years ago, as a junior. The journey started with Ian Hornsey, who's now a area managing partner for a few offices in Xeinadin here. He was the partner at that time, or was his business actually, was a sole trader, and was a part-time secretary, and obviously we grew the business from there. I've learned a lot, throughout the years, and yeah, we're now part of a large corporation, although looking after the SME sector, basically. So yeah, so that's apart from what I would say now is a passion for me, helping people, assisting people, and obviously being good with numbers, combined the two together, and I became an accountant
Well, there
eventually.
you go. There you go. Yeah, and I
So,
like that you're still kind of getting involved in the community and helping people learn. So the firm you built, you kind of started. You haven't changed firms in a way, and yet there's been some major structural changes through acquisitions and eventually being part of this Xeinadin, which is a very large, successful company. How did that evolution kind of shape your perspective of accounting?
well, I think, going back to where I started actually, the idea of growing business to people nowadays is, through structural changes, P's and all that. But at that time, the profession looked a lot different. So it was hard work, and as long as you're prepared to do hard to work really hard, so as you know in your probably profession, then you are likely to succeed. It's always then the passion of, again, looking after people, trying to solve their problem, their issues, on a day-to-day basis, and holding their hand, especially when there's a growing business that needs your help with the figures to make decisions, especially management information, so they can sort of plan ahead for their future, and obviously we're there to assist them in fulfilling their goals. Becoming part of Xeinadin isn't an overnight thing. It was a growing process. It's like, what we used to say, we get our hands dirty. So basically, there's
Yeah.
nothing in this office that I can't do. From including collecting the bins at 5:30 in the evening because somebody's left them behind. But doing the payroll, spreadsheets, completing reports. What we're going to talk about only about sustainability reports, and obviously the idea of discussing the business forecast and the business future with the clients and assisting them in the best way possible. I came through a lot of stages where I was a junior, then I became a senior, and then I took on the role of becoming a manager, 8 years into the business. And during that time, I also created a portfolio of clients, small clients that I had on the side. Again, it's hard work. You have to work weekends if you want to do something like that on the side, because obviously people need your help, and you have to help them outside of the office hours. And yeah, a lot of family time sacrifices. And eventually that client portfolio became too big for me to manage it, and then I brought it in so I could buy into Devonport's share, and then from there I grew that portfolio very rapidly, because I was able to have a bit more peace and calm when I went home. I didn't have to continue working, but again, obviously my phone was always on for clients, trying to help them. Yeah, so
Understood.
yeah, go on.
Understood. So a lot of times when you're in a smaller firm, an SME yourself, you're an accountant, but you're in an SME yourself, and often you're the bottleneck. There's only
Yeah,
so many hours of it in a day, and you can't afford to hire someone, so you end up working a lot of hours. So I'm glad to see you rolled it into Davenport and now to Xeinadin.
yeah,
That's a success case, very much so. If
thank
you
you. Yeah,
can take some time off, if you can take a weekend off and not worry about something not being done, I think that's a success case as an SME owner. I'm not quite
yeah,
there myself. Someday I may be, but I'm definitely feeling that I'm the bottleneck in ALECA sometimes. So
you have, yeah, yeah,
your journey in the profession has been remarkable. A lot of successes, a lot of hard work and successes. You've also done some work in the profession with your IFA and being an ambassador as well. You sit on the council of the Institute of Financial Accountants, which
correct,
connects to the global, I think, IPA network as well.
correct.
What does IPA stand for again? What is it?
Institute of Practicing Accountants in Australia.
Okay, well, there you go. And for
Yeah.
listeners who may not know, maybe you want to just tell them what IFA and IPA and kind of your role there.
Yeah, so for listeners in the UK, it's not a drink, it's not a pub drink. It's actually stands for Institute of Public Accountants in Australia, which is
Okay.
the parent company of the Institute of Financial Accountants. So, yeah, I became a member in 2013, and obviously the institute is a membership institute who supplies practice certificate to the members, but not only. There's a lot of support and help that they give to to members, generally accountants in practice, dealing with SMEs. In 2019, I for my sins, I put my hand up to become what one at that time was a branch ambassador for the Kent region in the UK. And then obviously eventually the I sat on the board, what it was then, members advisory committee, which is now called the IFA Council. We meet to advise the board of any concerns, any issues, or any that the membership has. because obviously with the boots to the ground, with face to face with most members, especially on our quarterly CPD events, which my region is London. I organise continuous professional development events for the membership base in London, and I tend to meet with a lot of accountants in practice and ask them about what what keeps them awake at night, what's going on in your world, how can we help, how can I assist, and it's quite nice sometimes to hear, to look at it from the other side, basically, because although we're a global, we as a firm, Xeinadin is it's a top 10 UK firm now. Obviously, I meet a lot of sole practitioners with
Yeah.
a handful of clients that they need some advice on some on certain things, and it gives you a bit of motivation to sort of go and do what I do, basically,
Yeah, and you've been
which is
there.
great.
You've been there. You've been the one that had a sole practitioner office for a little while,
Yeah,
and you know the stresses, the pressure of that.
yeah, yeah.
So from your profession and supporting people, what do you think the biggest gaps are from your vantage point now, from looking at it and dealing with the IFA? What do you think the biggest gaps are in your profession today?
I Like I said, I speak to a lot of accountants, and the one of the biggest gaps is the adaptation to new tech changes. Bringing technology. So when I started as a junior in accountancy practice, majority of the stuff was done on paper and then transferred into an Excel spreadsheet. We're using spreadsheets and some software, and this is 24 years ago. Now, in the last, I'd say, 10 years, the world has moved so fast. The profession has moved into a different direction, where before you had someone come in with papers. They just wanted to do calculations of their taxes, or and then pay the tax. Now you're becoming, our role is a trust, what I called a trusted advisor. So it's into advisory, because generally at our office here in Southend, we use a lot of AI technology, and which we're going to talk about later. But um, the challenge with where the gaps are in the industry is let's say the older generation, or some accountants that do not like change. They tend to sort of stay behind, and they set in their ways, and that's where the gap is. But that will create an issue for that particular firm of attracting young talent to have continuity, and to have the sustainability of that particular firm. So that's where, generally that's what where the gap I see is in the profession. But one of the things that you use technology for is also, fast. You tend to do all the admin jobs very quickly,
Mm.
and cost effective, basically. So yeah,
Yeah, so if these older generations don't of sole practitioners and their client base, they're gonna see a lot of cost pressure. So
cost
they're gonna see that aspect, and they may start losing clients, but also the value of their company if they were to sell their company or if they were to package their company. I think they're gonna miss out on some of the value because they haven't implemented the new technology.
correct.
And yeah, so I see that as well across all service industries. So
Of
we
course,
can
yeah.
jump right into technology. I think that's the right segue. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you attended, what was it, Zero Com just the other
Zero
day?
con, yeah. So
What
it was
was
a
that
couple of days.
experience like?
Oh, it was fascinating. It was great to see. I do attend a lot of technology events, like for to do with the accounting profession, the likes of Accountex, QuickBooks Connect, and then now ZeroCon. They put on a show for a couple of days, and there's a lot of exhibitors there, and and there's a lot of talks where you go and listen. It was great to see where things are moving for the accountancy profession, and obviously we had a couple of inspiration talks which I quite enjoyed, which is really good. A lot of accountants do need inspirational talks sometimes. Because
Sure.
yeah, but it was great to see that Zero as a software was implementing and developing a lot of AI technology for their software.
Okay.
That it will make our life easier going forward. You know, we'll move. The technology is not there to substitute humans. It's there. It's a tool for us to do our job better, more efficient, more cost effectively, and obviously it's a tool that would give us the ability to advise the client in real time. So yeah, so as a show was good. I quite enjoyed it. You know, they were talking about AI assisted bookkeeping and real time cash flow insight and all of the tools that they have. But yeah, the direction of travel is towards the accountants spending less time on data entry and more time on interpreting the figures. So that's yeah, that it was great.
Oh, that's good to hear. I think every service company is trying to implement that, where the mundane tasks will be taken over by AI. It'll make you, it'll highlight the red flags quicker, easier, things that
Yeah,
need your attention as things that are fall in the gray area. So
yeah.
that's great to hear. I know a lot of accountants, how do you encourage that adoption and not be fearful? So what would you say? How would you encourage old, young and old to adopt this and to reduce the fear around AI? What do you need? I know you're a technology buff. You like
Yeah.
the technology, but how would you encourage the use amongst everyone?
Well, the use of technology is not about technology. Is a mindset that you have to adapt yourself to change. You know, and to say to yourself, right, okay, well, I'm gonna use something that has been proven to lower costs, to give me a better insight of especially clients' books and records, so it will actually help me. And it's not about the technology that they're frightened of, because there's a lot of training out there for any AI technology. You know, I pulled up I did a bit of research on. And this is in the US. So in the US, according to Thomson Reuters, AI saves a practicing accountant per partner around 240 hours per year. So that's roughly 6 weeks.
Six,
So
yeah,
do you know you can have your holiday for 6 weeks.
yeah, yeah,
So I would say to those, obviously you will open yourself up to more capacity, where you would say, right, no, I don't want those 6 weeks, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use those 6 weeks to get more clients and
yeah,
grow my practice. So the tools are there. It's just a mindset. So the fear of it all is that, oh, we substitute humans, and again, it's not about substituting you. Is there to help you, to assist you, like any and other industrial change. But yeah, I think it's got accountants are not silly people, are clever people, but they need to be a bit more adventurous when it comes to change, basically,
yeah.
and
Getting that
well, at
mindset.
least try it. Yeah,
I agree. I agree. That's a great way to put it. It's not about the technology. It's about you're set in your ways. This worked last year, and if I do the same thing this year, it'll work again. I know for sure. But there's still better ways to do it. There's still an adaption that can adoption of
correct.
technology and adapting to change. So it's mindset. I agree completely, and
Yeah,
it's the same in other service industries. What we do at ALECA is obviously very much sustainability reporting, emissions auditing, and we very much leverage the chartered accountant report. That's a
yeah,
great way to start, especially with small to medium enterprise. You don't want to burden them with more reporting. So if we get into the SME landscape for a minute here and just think about a small business owner, your clients, your typical client. They've faced, they've been pretty resilient, especially in the UK. I don't mean to pick on the UK, but between COVID and Brexit and
Yeah.
rising energy prices and supply chain disruptions and your minimum wage increases, I mean, it's been a pretty extraordinary sequence of events here. External pressures, I would say nothing in control of the actual business owner. What do you think was the biggest stress for SMEs in the past kind of few years for a UK
Yeah.
SM?
Well, you said it yourself, all of this, the whole lockdowns and supply chain disruption, energy prices, war in Ukraine, now is war in Iraq right now, Iran, sorry. You know, a lot of SMEs had to do some pretty good acrobatic moves to keep their business. Yeah, it was quite interesting. So, going back to the previous questions, if anything, if the accountant, the one that doesn't like change, if they haven't learned anything from themselves, at least learn something from clients, that they had to do so many moves, they had to adapt into so many environments of
Yeah,
changes. And obviously then the biggest pressure right now, it's especially in certain industries, is the rapid growth of rapid rise in a national minimum wage
yeah,
here in the UK, which has brought a lot of burden into the SME sector because they would feel the pressure. And obviously, it wasn't just that; it was only it's also a rise of what they call it, employers' national insurance contribution, where they lowered the threshold and upped the percentage. The government, so basically, the government has asked small business for more money to bridge the tax gap. So that has in itself has had a massive effect on people's daily life, in general. And then that's the businesses basically, because a lot of these are one-man band. A lot of SMEs in the UK are one-man band or family-run business, so they had to tighten the belt a little bit because of these changes. So there have been, there's a lot of businesses that at the moment are now surviving what an insolvency practitioner will call a zombie business. They just go in. There's no real future for them for now, purely, well, whether it's to do with how they do things in their business, have they got any plannings, any succession plannings and things like that, whether to sell the business or not, all these sort of things. But yeah, definitely the rise in living costs has affected a lot of businesses. And, okay, it will affect the business, but obviously if the shareholder and directors are family members, like my husband and wife,
yeah,
they in themselves, they can't afford to take less from the business because they have to spend more money for to pay their bills at home. So yeah, so there's a catch-22 situation in that case. But yeah, I mean, Brexit has not helped.
your largest trading partner, the Europe, mainland Europe,
Yeah, well, it's created a lot of admin burden on businesses because the reporting, the complexity, the compliance that goes with it has not helped really. There are some positive reports to say some sectors have increased their export to Europe, to mainland Europe. Obviously, we are close to Europe, and it's the biggest market that we trade with. But yeah, definitely hasn't helped that we are not part of the common market, basically, and
yeah.
it has affected a lot of businesses, and some businesses unfortunately have gone have foreclosed.
Yeah,
You know,
that's always a challenge with the change of well, I guess when you look at the combination of everything, it's inflation. There's been such a tremendous amount of inflation, energy costs, minimum wage, government policy, government requirements. Yeah, it's inflation.
yeah,
And and
and that's what caused inflation here. It's been very challenging. I wouldn't say bad, but it's been very challenging times. We talked about certain industries, but catering and hospitality, they heavily rely on young staff, pay them a minimum wage where, there would be a lot of cost savings. Lately, what we see in the UK, all this catering hospitality, especially the shops that they had, coffee shops or takeaway shops, they're replacing staff with machinery because it's a lot cheaper. Where you go and order over the counter, you just go and self-order basically, and then that would save a few. But this is what you're talking about. It's fine margin, very, very fine margins. So
Yeah,
yeah, so that
agreed.
industry has
Vending,
suffered a lot.
you're nearly getting into the vending machine environment. If you've been to
Correct.
Japan, it's all vending machines.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
very
yeah,
few people standing there selling anything. So
yeah, yeah.
I agree. So let's get into a bit more the next step of reporting and sustainability, ESG, and what SMEs need to know from compliance kind of to strategy. What are, if any, your clients currently asking about sustainability or ESG, and how that has changed in the very recent years? What would you say to that?
Well, at the moment, there's no regulation for ESG reporting for the SME market. So, however, it has come into law for larger firms, for large businesses, where they have to have the ESG reporting. That in itself presents also a challenge to, well, not a challenge, but I would say also will force the SME market to start producing the ESG reporting. They clients are now asking because they didn't know that existed like 2 years ago. Now, there's a lot of clients that are asking what is it, and I'm explaining it's all about is environmental, social, and governance reporting that you have to report onto your stakeholders. So, although it's for large companies, the pressure it's building on SME because as a supply chain, basically, because they will then the large companies will deal with SMEs that do produce an ESG reporting, and it's understandable. They need to understand that their supply chain is sustainable. It's not, it's not going to go. Oh, well, tomorrow we're running on very fine margins, and just the change in the markets, like we saw the US-Iran war, will like foreclose the company. Therefore, that will stop that supply chain. So they do need sustainability in that sense. And it will be eventually, I think, they will require it not not for compliance, but they will require it for to present it to their customers, which are the larger entities.
I agree.
So
I agree. That's what we're seeing as well across Southeast Asia in a way is the procurement chains of large companies.
yeah,
They want to ensure that their supply chains into the SMEs are actually sustainable. And it's more than the E piece. Everyone keeps focusing on E, the environmental, the carbon emissions, those kind of things. But in reality, the S and the G are just as important in
yeah,
where are they getting their supply? Are they going to be sustainable? If they're getting everything from abroad and the borders shut down for whatever reason, or the shipping shuts down, or
yeah,
there's a war, then yeah, they want to know as a big company, is this SME sustainable
correct.
in their supply chain? So it's more than just emissions. It's definitely a longer term view. And if you can supply that report, if you can have a mitigation plan in place such that if anything happens, how to adapt. And I
Yeah,
know we talked about this before, Ermal. We talked about it's hard to make a plan in these environments, but a mitigation plan is just as important as a plan. So, what would
yeah.
you
You need
say?
you need contingencies, and to be fair,
Contingency.
you have one of your fellow Canadians. I do listen a lot to is a psychologist, Pat Peterson, Jordan Peterson. He
Yeah,
said if you write down your problem on a piece of paper, half of it is solved because you've written it down and you understand it. So the same happens with this. You write down and what issues could incur. And then obviously you do have, in the last 6 years, there's a bundle of issues to pick out of the bag that have happened. And you can just say, right, okay, what if this happened? What if that happened? I know that a lot of people have insurances, but it's not just about the insurance. It's about having an understanding of where your company's going, how sustainable are you, what is your next generation going to bring into the company to sustain it, to have a longevity of business. So all of these, if you have a clear plan, write it down, present it to your procurement chain, to your customers, including your suppliers, because they would also need to know, are they going to sell to you tomorrow, whether when you don't really know what way you're going. So it's I think it's quite important, for any small businesses, and they should start doing it right now. At least they're ahead of the game, because because if you're leading and you're at the forefront of it, then you won't have any issues that the others will, in a few years' time. But I think, by 2030, you would have that as it's going to be a compliance thing for the ESG reporting for the SMEs, and it will be compulsory, I guess, from the government.
Yeah, that took away my next question is what do you think in the next 5, 10 years? So you think by 2030, I think everyone should be reporting. I think they should start today. I agree with you. It gives you a good suit of armor today, very, very, very transparent on how you manage your own supply chain, how you sell your product, and what governs your company, and how you're positioning yourself to be sustainable in the next 5, 10 years. So I like that.
Yeah, I
I
think,
like,
from my experience, okay, we've implemented a lot of technology changes earlier on before they became compulsory, and within mind to say, we're going to do this because it's going to happen. There's no way back, because in the world that we're living,
yeah,
you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and then you need to have some sort of certainty with what you know today. But the earlier you do these things, is a short-term pain for long-term gain. The earlier you do it, and easier it gets as you go along, because you get used to it. And I would say that the leading businesses, the ones that are going to succeed and not have a lot of burden on themselves when it comes to have this reporting consultant, it's compulsory, is the firms that will say, we'll look at this on a positive way. We're going to
yeah.
do it, and with a positive mindset, it's always good to approach this thing. But yeah, I think definitely within up to 2030, I see this as something that not only being compulsory from the government, but it will be required. Actually, the client will actually require it.
I agree. I think it's a trend that's not going away, and it's an important trend. I think it's a sustainable future is important. It's been great. If you were to leave with one last thing, if you were a young person, remember 24 years ago, a young man from Albania starting his journey in accounting, what would you tell someone to build a career in accounting that still matters in 20 years? What would be your nugget of guidance?
I've said this to a couple of talks that we did, and obviously we're going back to the ESG reporting. Is have a long term plan for yourself. Set your goals earlier on in life. It will make your life a lot easier. You know where you're going. All you got to do is choose the way, the path that you're going to get to your target. Like I said, I've done really well out of the profession, and I do like it. And I believe that I need to help the next generation to become accountants. But again, they have to have some realistic goals, have a dream, but have realistic goals, and choose a path where to go down to. So it's what else did I say? I've jotted some notes here, but learn technology, very, very important. Learn technology. It's here to stay. AI is going to be your friend. But do have real friends as well, because it helps you talk through a lot of problems. It's not just AI will help you do your job, but real friends will help you with advice in life. And I had a few of them. And obviously, for when you are at the beginning, you don't realize this, but the profession that we're in now, it's it's become more advisory, and you have to have the people skills to do the advisory bit, because not everybody takes your advice, even if it's not convenient for them, but it is for the short term, but then you look at the long term. So you do need to build some people skills as well. Customer service, go and work in, it worked for me. I worked in a catering bit. I worked at a restaurant as a waiter, in my early 20s, and that built me a lot of confidence to talk to people. But that is a skill that you do need.
Good. I like that. I think it is. You've summed it up very well. It's a profession at a crossroads, really. Instead of just number crunching, I think the number crunching can be done with AI, with
Yeah.
technology, and you're going to be leveraged much more as an advisor. That I agree with. Ermal, thank you for sharing your experience, your perspective. It's been a
Thank you.
great 24-year journey, and your commitment to the profession through training young professionals with your work through IFA, and your grounded view on the SMEs and the challenges of an SME. I think that's important. What stands out is kind of you believe that accountants have a crucial role, I guess, in helping business navigate, the uncertainty, and to build resilience and to embrace technology. That these are all good messages. Ermal, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much. And last thing I would say is that accountant is not just good for business, but good with what we work closely with you guys. We will be in the future, because we're the source of the information that you need for the ESG reporting. So we will need to build a closer relationship.
Thank you. Yes, very much. Very dear to our heart, the ESG reporting. It has been a pleasure, Ermal, and thank you
Thank
again
you.
for your time, your insights, and your leadership, and that last note on sustainability. And thank you to everyone listening to ALECA Talks. I thank you for your time as
Thank you very
well.
much for having me.
All right. Until next time, please be a leader of our sustainable future. Ciao for now.
Well done. Ciao.